a professor can tell you in a book. But beyond that also, because of your self-interest, you can get into depth of it, and maybe you will score high marks, maybe not, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But you will be able to apply that principles in your interview with your prospective companies.
The MBA institute that you choose, I mean, it's a hit or a miss, right? You wouldn't really know at the very onset. But what you can learn, I think every institute is like a melting pot.
As a business school, what proportion of tech experience should students get? Or is it even necessary? Or you think that you have a tech department there?
No, it is not. It is the mindset which is important, right?
When you are coming to an institute, the institute also needs to qualitatively put technology as like a progression index part. Whether you join into your summer or a concurrent with a fintech to understand the platform.
I've got 3 alumni, very distinguished alumni here from the Delhi region of the kjsomaiya Institute of Management. So I'm going to invite them over. So first Jatin, then Sona and Arindam. Please come over. I've been the director of this institute for about a year, but before that I spent about 30 years in corporate. So I'm going to now request the lady in the panel, Sona, to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sona. I'm the 98-2000, we used to call ourselves the Millennium Batch. So I come from that, specialized in marketing. Prior to MBA, straight after I finished my BSc Statistics, I went on the regular route that one would have anticipated. I went on to enroll myself in a PG in computer science. So I started with that. I did a year of it, and during my summer internship, I realized, this is not something I'm cut out to do. I'm not a person who enjoys being in the back office and solving problems in silo. That very year, before I went on to the second year of my PG, I decided that MBA is the way to go, because at that time, I thought that would really help me open up a lot more doors and realize my true potential and what I love doing. So it was very exploratory, and it was a risk, because you can imagine at that time, nobody was really giving up a PG in computer science and getting into business management. But I think that was one of the best decisions. Specialized in marketing, campus placement into Times of India. We were 3 of us who got picked up there. Wanted to be a part of media. So I was very clear at the very onset that I want to be a part of media. And early on, it was just starting to rise. So part of the broadcast medium, so largest newspaper at that time. Immediately after that, it was television during our time. So 2003, went on to join Sony Television. It used to be called SET then. But very quickly, I realized my passion was actually the whole realm of children, family entertainment, theme parks at that point of time was something which really would excite me. I would love to read about that and see how that growth is happening. I think a lot of us who come from the entertainment industry, Disney is something we really look forward to, and after that was Cartoon Network. So I was a part of Cartoon Network for 7 years, and it was an amazing journey there. And then there was a company called Kidzania. I don't know how many of you know of it. It's a global company. We're present in 28 countries across the world. It's way larger than a Disney. So I was one of the CXOs there. I was part of the leadership team, bringing the concept into India, and we launched Bombay, Delhi. I was with them for 8 years. After that, I decided that I want to do something on my own, not a full-time job. So I started working with startups, and it's an exciting space to be in. So that's me.
Moving from the Millennium Batch, I think I'm batch of 2001, 99, 2001. I've been a career banker all through before my master's and now. I'm still learning, as I tell everybody in my current employer also, that I'm the new kid on the block, even though I'm 22 years into this industry, because there's a lot to learn. And my journey started after my schooling, my colleging here in Delhi. I had joined the one of the back office of Citibank in Delhi, and had a great 2 years working there. As Sona mentioned about, you always start thinking what next, and that is very important, and especially in today's generation, what next, and then execution is very important. taking exams, taking comparative pieces surely is very important. So I started, thinking about giving the exam that time, and I got through kjsim. It was a post-graduation piece, pgdba. It actually started with the piece that I was part of banking. Ray started liking banking in those days, the retail banking, amazing boom. It is still a great boom to be part of that. New things are coming in. I always thought that this particular course or this particular post graduation will definitely give me a fillip on my career path. And as I said, it was never a job for me. It was a career. So therefore, MBA or a PGDBA really gave me a kind of a flip on to the other side. It was great experience of 2 years, apart from the studies part, because obviously I was part of few of the good institutes in Delhi, DPS RK Puram, Bhagat Singh College, which is just next door, BCom Honors. Then part of the lineage of Citibank to look at the best of the processes. So I was part of the process there. And then added to that, an institute like kjsim really helped me build up my career, which I'm evolving. When I was entering the college gate, I still remember was that I will continue being part of the banking industry. kjsim helped me fulfill that dream because my first job started with the HDFC Bank. I still remember those days. They took me into their executive program, which was the first time they did a big, huge executive management program. We had people from different institutes. We had competitive pieces in that. And I think those 2 years of 99, 2001 really helped me build up my career.
So I currently, I'm the CEO for an NBFC called DMI Finance, and we run India's one of the largest digital lending company. Before this, I was part of various companies, large establishments, startups, which has become very large institutions now. So 2000, when I graduated, or rather I took the decision of following my heart rather than my mind and joined an advertising company called Leo Burnett. And within 1 year, I realized that I'm not cut out for advertising and marketing. Quickly moved to Citi. Citi was growing very rapidly in India. This is year 2001 end, 2002 beginning. And within Citi was my formative years of learning, and getting my teeth grinded. And then went on to work with a startup, which was between Merrill Lynch and IIFL. And then worked at IIFL Finance, basically now it is known as. And then I worked for another startup called Future Capital, which later went on to become Capital First, which was acquired by a private equity company called Warburg Pincus, and then eventually it has become a bank called IDFC Bank. And in between, I left and started my own online platform company back in 2015. It didn't work, so shut it down and tried to come back into the financial services world as a quasi and a semi entrepreneur. And that is where I picked up as a CEO and a partner in a company called DMI. And currently we run this NBFC. We run our own investment portfolio which is works like a venture capital. And I do a lot of angel investments. I think in terms of the way we saw the MBA, which will talk about it in the next probably half an hour amongst few of us, it has a profound change on how you look at it. Because I come from a very small city, actually not even a city. The place I come from had a population of less than 2 lakh. It's a place called Bhilai, which is an industrial town, famous for Steel Authority of India Limited. And both my parents used to work there, and we were like a cooped up into our own cocoon world. And then I landed up in Mumbai. Didn't have a place to stay. Luckily, Somaiya gave us the opportunity to stay in the hostel, because I remember a lot of our batchmates could not find a hostel, and learnt our ropes. And here we are to talk on various things.
Great. So, one of the themes that we wanted to discuss today is that typically MBA is seen as a beginning and end. So, when you think about getting a degree, you think that, well, I'm going to get my MBA and my life is set, right? Many institutions also look at it from that perspective. But the reality today is that when you studied, probably what you studied, you still was effective for the next 5, 10, 15 years. But given the changes in the technology, given the changes in the concepts that are happening so quickly, it's even fair to say that what you study is irrelevant 6 months. Not all of it, but many of it and some parts of it. So I think the theme that we want to discuss is you need to really look at MBA as a stepping stone to a transformational journey. Now, even otherwise, it's a stepping stone to a transformational journey because all of you have really kind of had multiple careers. You've moved, particularly you, Sona, from media to now what you do now, and you from marketing to banking. You've had multiple roles in banking. Yeah. So maybe let me start by asking this question. When you were in the business school, how did you see it? How relevant was what you studied for the next few years? And have you stopped learning? And how did you, to achieve where you are? Obviously you haven't. How did that happen? And specifically the environment that you see today, how do you see the need to be constantly on the top of the curve? And how can a business school prepare you for that?
This topic is very deep, and maybe at some point in time, pardon me if I am getting into a stream of consciousness on this. When we started studying, I don't even recollect, in the first semester probably were 8 subjects, and second semester again similar to. So over a period of time, I think we did about 28 or 32 odd subjects. We don't recollect, at least I don't, how many subjects were relevant today. Maybe only very few. But that's not the point. The point is probably slightly different. From my vantage point, the way to look at it is it's a growth mindset versus fixed mindset. It is about that what you are studying over there. Let's say, for example, you are studying OR, operational research, or you are studying something to do with macroeconomics. It is about the conceptual clarity that your teachers, your professors will help you, and probably your peers and your self-learning will help you to get in-depth knowledge to help you to understand how things work in the corporate side. At that point in time, most of us did not understand that how macroeconomics is going to help us navigate the world of wherever we are working. Now, since I had chosen a career in financial services, I realized that macroeconomics play a huge role, not only from a general theory perspective, but the understanding of how currency, interest rates, bond markets, how it is affecting. Sometimes it can get very boring and soporific, but if you start understanding the concept, it will help you in your career, not only in banking. Maybe it is you are part of a research company, which has nothing to do with financial services. Maybe you're part of a private equity company. Maybe you're part of venture invest. Your industry is at any given point of time is getting affected, uprooted by the macro phenomena. So if you understand, you have basically an edge over your colleagues, maybe your peer. Maybe you can build a better rapport with your clients because you can explain to them. Operational research. Now, what I know is in operational research, now in India, the challenge is that academic and the corporates don't work very closely like what we see in US. If you were in a OR team of a company like, let's say, or an institute in US, any top institutes or Ivy Leagues, chances are that Uber comes to your campus, right? And Uber, when they used to, in their heydays, recruit people, they used to always ask, give me the OR guys. You know why? Because OR guys are supposed to be brilliant in route mapping. Now, Uber has nothing otherwise to do with operational research because those guys understand fundamentally very strong in the route mapping, and Uber is all about that algorithm. So there can be many such examples which you will chance upon while reading those subject matter, right? And then you will say, wow, this is of interest. Maybe all 32 subjects or 30 subjects will not be of interest, but some of them you can get really in depth. How many of you are at this point in time coders and programmers? Can you raise your hands? At least 20-30% of you are probably familiar with coding world. Now, I'm sure you also are familiar that what LLM is doing to that world, right? Like at this point in time, while we speak, we have put one of our crack teams who are ex-coders, programmers, ex-data science guys, and we have formed a small group within our company, DMI, to replace coding. that they don't need to. So we don't need to code to, let's say, integrate with Amazon or integrate with Google. Whatever we do business, we have to integrate with some of these. So the LLM guys are supposed to do it. Now, what we are seeing is a lot of white noise, right? That every day there is announcement after announcement. You're seeing Microsoft did some fancy announcements. Last 3 weeks has been an extremely interesting development at OpenAI, right? And I'm sure you are following, some of you are following what Bhavesh Agarwal announced day before yesterday, right? What is it called? Krutim, right? So now if you read into it between the lines, what he is saying, we at our organization seeing is all faff, right? It is not possible what he's. Forget about that, whether it is faff, whether it will succeed or not succeed. The principles of it, you have to get into it. So people who are coders and programmers, they can understand what is large language model, right? So now a professor can tell you in a book, but beyond that also, because of your self-interest, you can get into depth of it, and maybe you will score high marks, maybe not, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but you will be able to apply that principles in your interview with your prospective companies. And that's where institutions like Somaiya can help you to channelize, to guide.
Now, yeah, I just wanted to add to what Arindam mentioned, because this is very important from the subject perspective. But the two things which I have in my career to pick up from my institute was one, though I'm a finance graduate from the institute, but I also had a minor in marketing. So the flexibility was amazing in an institute like this. Secondly, I still remember one of the professor we had, Professor Vedanathan. I remember he put us into the things of getting into the HBR journal reading presentation. Trust me, today most of the articles are here with me, because today my job puts me into strategy. Those days I did it because I wanted to do it with my team, being a team member. But currently, most of my strategy, which I'm putting into my current environment, because we are building up a platform here in Barclays, basically on setting up how we go to market on some of the businesses, because there's a lot to do in a bank like this. It's a CI, it's a corporate and investment bank, more an investment bank, but we're building on the corporate banking strategy. So strategy journal of the things which I learned still after 23 years, 22 years out of my college, I am using them to the hilt.
One of the key things that you're touching is the pedagogy. How do business schools teach, and the use of case method,
Yes.
Very important.
Very important. And also concurrent project, which we did those days. I still remember I did concurrent projects, thanks again to the institute, with ICICI Bank those days, and wholesale banking. I did concurrent project, which was amazing to work with. And those helped us. And it is still, today also, it's become more pragmatic. Even I go to my today the education is also changing. It's more pragmatic and more open on things. And these flexibilities really help you even after 20 years into a career. That's why I said I'm still a new kid on the block and I'm still evolving. And that evolving piece is more personal aspect. Like he mentioned, coders, right? Amazing. AI is going to take things like crazy. And I know certain things, it's very close to me in my industry. It's the banker of the future, which we'll talk also. The second point, sir, which I want to make is the network, the connect. The world is all about, it's not about, we all learn networking from the day when we were born. As I said, my institutes in Delhi, I have studied in the best of the institutes, but I was more on academic. But when I came to doing my PG DBA, I got the chance to get more open, network with the corporate, work with them, alumnus, and I know most of my alumnus, even if the other way around not happened. I remember these two guys. I remember from the day when they went out, we were with them as the alumni committee guys. Because I have this connect, and that's where today my forte is, even in my today business, right? So second thing, very important when you are getting into the MBA Institute, apart from the 32, 40 subjects which you'll do, which you have done in your earlier parts. But this network, this connect, and then leverage both sides, the value add pieces is very important. And the third part, which is coming up today, is the entrepreneurial aspect, which is very, very important. It's not only today, all of you are sitting here, it's not that you want a job on day zero, right? It's also that what can you really do for you and create a value. And there are institutes like DMI and others which are also, kind of doing these focus incubation or not, but maybe supporting. And then institutes also have, we have a great piece which I'll talk as we go on, where we support the entrepreneurial aspect of our alumnus or our students.
So before I come to you, Sona, I just wanted, since you brought the topic of alumni, just to put some numbers there, I think KJSIM has 14,000 alumni spread over 60 countries. But the interesting thing that I observed is the number of our alumni who have become entrepreneurs in the last 10 to 15 years, starting enterprises, both in the for-profit and some of them even for non-profit. Really inspirational to kind of see that venture into it. Sona, you have had so many different kind of dimensions to your career. I think very important for them to hear from you.
I think, the MBA institute that you choose, I mean, it's a hit or a miss, right? You wouldn't really know at the very onset. But what you can learn, I think every institute is like a melting pot. Just look at the way education is changing. I mean, just yesterday or day before the news, NEP, I don't know how many of you know the new education policy, right? So what is happening is kids very early on, the government is taking steps as to how to empower them at a very early age. So right now, CBSE Board 10 exams have been knocked out. It's gone. It's no longer going to be there. It's just grade 12 onwards. And they are also focusing on skill development, right? So understand this. All of y'all are 20, 22-year-olds, maybe a little older. What is happening is the next generation already is coming with a lot of power. Please understand that they're learning. In school, they are going for forums in the UN, they are working with the governments, they are doing projects in sustainability. What our batches would have got at an MBA institute where you're sitting, doing case studies, reading up, debates, group-based activity. What is it that you will derive when you come out of an MBA institute, right? It has to be way more than that. If you need to be ahead of the curve, coordinating or leveraging the alumni network and all that is great, but that'll happen like 10 or 12 years later, right? What is it that you're going to do right at the onset? So peers that you have, the teachers that you have, you'll have to try and derive the maximum out of it. And there's no linear learning, honestly. I mean, there are books, and those same books are referred by the 20,000 MBA colleges across, right? How is it different? Teaching method also is debatable. Pedagogy is debatable. You have the best teachers. But why is it that some institutes come out with the brightest? Like he was giving statistics about how many have turned entrepreneurs. That's when you look at the alumnus list. Where have the Somaiya guys gone? What are they doing? None of us were from the IIMs, but I think today where we are, we look at our batchmates, they're doing exceptionally well. So of course they derive something within that peer group. They learned of each other and they learned of what the institute had to offer. Today, the accessibility is so much more. You can actually just email somebody. You're doing marketing, but you don't enter thinking, oh, I want to be a marketing whiz. Like he said, you could become an HR guy. He was just telling me about somebody who used to be heading an advertising agency, but now heads a HR consulting firm. So again, that how malleable are you? That today you might like something and it's dynamic, right? Look at the professional environment we are in. I am not a gamer. I don't play games, but I'm in the gaming industry today, right? It's just about how curious are you to know more. I mean, it's a huge industry, right? Are you riding the wave? So that's the other thing. You have to be interested. You cannot fake it. How passionate are you? It'll have to come from inside. It becomes a good learning ground. That 2 years is a great learning ground. So make the most of it.
You cannot shrug off when you have a crisis saying it's a Sunday evening and I will not do it, right? Having said that, one of the things that we are trying to actively promote in our MBA program is also that life is not just about a job and money. It has, you need to have a much more balanced perspective. In fact, because of the context, I'm just bringing this also so they hear. We are introduced something called a student progression index, where we are looking at the students' progression over the 24 months they are with us. Now, this is a composite of only 45% of the CGPA, or what you learn in this class. We have got a lot of other components, including a 10% weightage for the physical fitness, how active they are in sports. Because one of the things you will realize is that it's one of the few MBA schools with a lot of excellent sporting facilities, including squash courts and because we are set in a 60-acre campus with other. So I just wanted to bring that perspective that ultimately I think you need to, you cannot be effective unless you're obviously very physically fit. Devote the time for physical and spiritual and intellectual kind of fitness over a period of time. And I think the MBA schools also have a responsibility to prepare students to that orientation, right?
No, that's brilliant. In fact, this keeps we discuss in our organization when we hire from some of the institutes, we discuss the students' progress over a period of time. There is one prominent school in Delhi. I don't want to take the name. It's a very famous school where we found some students joining us, and within 2 months or 3 months, they wanted to move out with very flimsy excuse. So I asked my HR head that why something like that happened, and they gave some ABCD reason. So I said that should we blacklist that institute? Go and tell the director of that institute that this is not what we expect. So they said that okay, we will speak to. And whereas there is another famous institute from Kolkata, which is very famous for statistics, one of the I think renowned number one institute in India, where we wanted to hire people because we wanted certain degree of knowledge on the data science and our credit modeling team. They turned out to be exceptionally brilliant. And one example I would like to quote over here, one of the young kids over there, they are all MSc stats. One of the kids, he's working on a project where he's not even involved in that delivering that particular project. But when certain situation came up and one of the seniors said that we are working on this program, if you feel anything to contribute, please raise your hands and we will let you in. So that guy out of the turn raised his hand saying that I want to be part of it. And he has been contributing regularly. So what I said when I heard that, watch this guy, treat him special, groom him, right? In 3 years of time, see to it that, if he is continuing in that same path, he should become one of the senior guys, maybe a national head in a company. And at 3 years from now, he will be just 27. Yeah. Right? So very early on, you can do these kind of things, right? In your, as Sir said, that the progression index actually does not start during your first job. It can actually start in the institute. In whatever way, if you can go out of the way and contribute, it will stand out because it is again part of your growth mindset, right? You're not just looking at, I have to study my 8 subject, score great marks, and get a great placement. That's part of everybody's life.
I just want to add on what we've met students while, or the candidates in the recent times in our banks, and especially in the current or the earlier one. Subjects like very clearly, and I'm sure Dr. Raman can add on that, sustainability is a very important piece, at least from the banking perspective, and especially all the foreign banks. Like I'm actually the ESG champion for the Bank for Asia. And clearly, this question I always ask the candidates about their thought on sustainability, what they look at. So I found, whichever institute, I don't want to name any one of them. In fact, 2 days back when I was in kjsomaiya, I was also very happy to meet some of the students who were doing the subject, but maybe Dr. Raman can add more on it because, it has to go beyond theory because, today we put up clearly transition money, all the banks are putting across the globe. A bank like me has put up a huge number and obviously have deadlines, And sustainability is not only just a climate aspect, it has beyond that. It is the ESG part is big actually. So maybe I feel that is lacking. Maybe it's more technical, but I think some of the projects or whether it's concurrent or whatever, more than theory, the kids, the candidates who are joining MBA Institute should also be involved because this particular concept is too nascent and even corporates when I meet, I do a lot of road shows on ESG across India and Asia, but then, people just laugh it out that, it's going to happen 2050, 2070, we have targets 2070, weird things, but people don't realize that it is very, very important to their living also. So that is one lack I see. The second is out of box, but out of box is not the institute piece as we all three mentioned. It's more your personal piece which has to come in. How do you look at particular issue, problem, from all 360 degree. That is more your personal piece, but institutes always put you through some of such experiences where you kind of hone that skill. See, all of us have that out of box. It's only that we are like, why should I really talk like this? You know, that's where the institute channelizes it. It's like the other day I met another of our junior senior, I don't remember which batch, but he teaches HR. The guy very clearly mentioned, so I said, what do you do? He says, I just make the students learn fishing, but I can't catch the fish for them. I love that piece, and I met his students and they said, we're fishing. So I'm saying you can go up to a point, but these are the two things I see when I meet candidate for banking careers in our piece. And I use the word career again. It's not a job.
I just want to, two more areas I wanted to explore. Very quickly, tech and MBA. Increasingly becoming important. Both, in the finance, wherever you talk about it. So I wanted a very quick 1 minute view on the role that tech plays and how an MBA student is either technology, at least appreciative of technology, the power, the limitations, etc.
So we at DMI are one of the heaviest users of technology and data. In fact, the entire company is built on the foundations of that. When we started the retail business, I joined the company in 2016 end to start this. The founder of the company is a guy called Shiv Chatterjee, who's based out of New York. And he's, by the way, a fixed income trader. You used to head North America for Solomon Brothers, and which got merged into Citi. Nothing to do with retail lending. First principles approach, again, learn everything from scratch, apply baby steps. And 2016, we both of us met and said that there is a way to leverage technology in financial services away from how the big banks like HDFC, ICICI, Bajaj Finance, Capital First, my erstwhile company, or any company, Hero, whatever, established incumbents. There is a way to do it very differently. We used heavily the data and the technology, which is likes of, everybody knows the JAM, right? The Jan Dhan Aadhaar, Mobile Trinity, UIDI, UPI. So all of these public digital infrastructure was getting created. This was getting created between 2013 and onwards. We leveraged it very heavily. We leveraged something called the API world, right? The API world, because nobody was using those API worlds the way financial services should have used. We started looking at data generating from mobile companies, because if you remember, companies like Jio collapsed the data cost 2016 when they launched it in India, and massive amount of data could be now generated. So we took all of these together and said that there is a new way to do digital lending, and that's where DMI journey started. So in fact, we have close to about 240 employees, total number of employees in the retail lending, out of 12 departments, and out of which one department is technology, where we have 85 members.
As a business school, what proportion of tech experience should students get? Or is it even necessary? Or you think that you have a tech department there?
No, it is not. It is the mindset which is important, right? So, by the way, some of our teams, let's say for example, customer service team, right? You would not even know, because you would have probably never interacted or worked in such a place, customer service or operations. Maybe some of you are familiar with operations in a typical banking. They are nothing to do with coding. They don't even know how to write one line of code. They are not familiar with any programming. But what they are good at is logical thinking, agile thinking, project management, and many of our tech projects, many of our success has come from this team writing BRDs, business requirement documents, to automate something. And it can be as simple. Think about it, as simple. Like for example, what is a practical challenge? Practical challenge for a bank of our size. Actually, we are not a bank, we are an NBFC. We get about close to, let's say, 8 lakh calls or 8 lakh customers calling us any particular month. 8 lakh calls. Now 8 lakh calls, you can do the math. You know how many calls are coming in on a daily basis. So if we were an average bank, do you know how many people we would have in our call center to handle that calls? It would have been probably 500 employees. Do you know how many people we have? We have only 25 employees. And that's too not our own employees, they're outsourced. Now you must be wondering that what that means. You are not picking up the calls. What is automated? Now automated can be chatbot, right? But we realized that after releasing the chatbot, that nobody wanted to chat. They wanted to speak. So next we move to something called automated voice. So which speaks like you and me, but they are not actually Arindam or anybody speaking. It is a machine speaking. 86% of our calls are handled by that. So when we showed this to our regulator, RBI, they were like stunned. And this is 24 by 7. Most of the banks have a call center which will only work from 9 a.m. in the morning till about 6 p.m. Not work on a Saturday, not work on a Sunday. Try calling your bank. They will not say, sorry, please call us on a Monday, working day, blah, blah, blah. Whereas we were 20, and this was not developed by the tech guys. This was developed by a customer service team, which has nothing to do with tech. So it is the mindset, which is how you apply solution.
No, but I believe that an institute, obviously, when you do an PGDBA or MBA, obviously it can't turn a non-technical guy or a non-techie or guy who doesn't even have interest in tech into a tech key guy. But I still, as a banker or as a perspective, the employer, as we look at people and how we are evolving in our industry, I think technology has to be part of not the, I would say, curriculum to some extent. Obviously, you can't teach them coding if they don't know about it. You can't teach them the concept. Today, everything is, today in my world, trade is all done, is getting through blockchain. Now, blockchain for us is basically validation of documentation, is nothing more. Instead of people, the AI does the validation of trade document, and trade documents are important piece in our transaction. When you are coming to an institute, the institute also needs to qualitatively put technology as like a progression index part. Whether you join into your summer or a concurrent with a fintech to understand the platform. Now, understanding the platform also, see, please understand, I always believe from my day one and then getting into the institute, I focus, or we should focus as a student or a candidate, into T kind of education. An institute gives you, it's like a T, right? You're a journalist and all, but one particular area you got to pick up, which has to be focus area for your career. But it depends from you, and you, it may differ, right? Somebody who's done coding, you would always like to get into a Microsoft or something, or maybe AWS to join after your institute, but institute gives you a degree which gives you a flip, right? But technology, sir, I think is very important. And today, manager of the future, or in my case, the banker of the future, actually we are all looking at people who have that kind of bent of mind. He mentioned APIs. Today, all the new setup, like in my bank, we're trying to put clear APIs for all our transactions. Now, knowing about it is fine as a buzzword, but getting deep into it, how will you get it? If you do not, again, mindset is important, but the institute has to really put it as part of your progressive index. So I think technology is very, very important, and you can't do a career without it. So that's why I said you have to evolve also. That's my view. Thanks.
You are in the gaming industry now. So would somebody with an MBA in sports management, does that fit your kind of industry today?
So again, like I said, that doing an MBA doesn't really become a prerequisite. Let me put it that way. To just step back and answer or address what you said about introducing tech, should it be there? Yes, I feel up to introduction level is okay. Rest, I again believe, is self-interest and self-learning. Because if I'm not an engineer, if I don't want to get deep into it, it's very superficial, right? Then I'm just try very hard, to do something which I'm not really capable of. But yes, if you want to get into AWS, you want to get into Microsoft, 100%. That is where you allow the area of specialization. And sports management, yes, the sports industry, because esport has also become a part of sport now, right? Esport is going to be representing in Olympics 2024. That's become an entry. But I think that requires a different skill set altogether. Tech is not the solution. It just depends on what part or what aspect of it. Are you going to be building a game? Are you into the UX part of it? What are you wanting to do? Or you just want to market? You're just there for the communication, the PR, the marketing. So once you know what you are really interested in, that's how deep you dig.
But the fact is that a very high proportion of students who come in really don't know yet what they want to do. So one of the things that we have started, I mean, which didn't exist in your time, is that in the week that they undergo the induction, at the end of the induction, we give them about 15 minutes to kind of sit quietly and reflect, and then we get them to write a one-pager on what they want out of the MBA. So we've got about 650, 700 of those sitting in envelopes, and when they graduate, they get it back. So they kind of have a view as what did I come in, have I achieved that?
That makes sense.
Exactly. So that's just one initiative that I thought. So I think it may be a good time to stop us talking, and then let if you have any questions, comments, we'll be more than happy to take it at this point.
So, hello ma'am, Bhumika this side. So my question was to you, you were in the media industry first, you worked many years over there, and then you shifted to esports. So how was the shift, and how you made yourself relevant even after so many years also? Because it must have been difficult for you too.
Thank you for your question and being the first one. It was not difficult at all. Like I always say, and my first mentor in Times of India, mine was a campus placement, like I said, in Times of India. I had the privilege of working with the director then, Dr. Bhaskar Das. He is now across multiple forums, including Mica. So I had the privilege of working directly with him. And it comes out of personal acumen, like being a part of the director's team. I had no so-called, people looking out for me and saying, you need to be with him. So one is how passionate you are about what you do. So you get identified. And then following the trend. So like I said, and I'm talking early, way ahead, right? 2003, television industry was booming. So I joined Sony, but very early on, I realized what I'm doing at Sony is what 20 other colleagues were doing. There was nothing different. But there was an American company, Turner, Cartoon Network, which was doing 4 different things. We were doing licensing, there was Tom and Jerry to sell, there were events, there was so much more. So I had a 4-hour, I was sought out, one of my clients recommended, Kellogg's recommended me to the person who hired me saying, here's somebody who is innovative in her thinking, because they were looking at people like that. So that's where the call came that, you don't seem to be the typical general entertainment GC person selling spots. We used to call them airtime spots, right? So then it was very easy for me to get into that role. And what we did at our time, which I again feel very bad that youth nowadays don't do, I spent considerable amounts of time in organizations, right? Sony, I realized very early on that this wasn't for me. 1 year, 3 months, I was out. Times of India, 3.5 years. Cartoon Network, like I said, 7 years I was there. I actually grew with the company into a leadership role. Then theme parks. I think I was always fascinated with theme parks. And Kidzania, like I said, if you guys don't know, you should read up about it. It is the first experiential, immersive theme park meant for children and giving back to society. That is something I really felt passionate about, and being in that space of family entertainment. So I was very clear that this is the space I want to be. I've never sold theme parks or entertainment, right? But you learn on the job when you're so keen about understanding the business. I did that. And then when I had that little period, like I mentioned to you guys, where I took a sabbatical, I was wondering what I should do next. I was reading up. At this level, so all of us, I mean, I know Arindam reads like crazy. He's forever reading, right? What I do is, I think my strength is networking. I can go and say that, I have a 1 degree separation with anybody. You tell me you need to meet this person, I have a 1 degree separation. So I seek out, like I mentioned. So Nazara, you guys know, is one of the top companies. Manish Agarwal used to be the CEO. On a LinkedIn message, I just told him, I find the gaming industry very interesting. He immediately wrote back. He wanted me to explore mergers and acquisitions for them. But I again realized that's not what I do. I am not good at mergers and acquisitions. So I said, this is all great. This is good learning. And I did, again, because of my interest, I did some digging around that which companies are up for sale, what could they add to their portfolio. It was great learning. Because that's when I figured out that this gaming industry is big. And this is last year. And then, I realized that gaming in India is still just scratching the surface. There are no companies. I mean, you guys just do a Google, 2-3 companies will come up. There's nothing. It's a $250 billion industry in the US. Here it's only 6 currently, and India is growing at the fastest pace. Great industry to be in. And then I identified a company, and like I mentioned, I don't do gaming. At my age, I don't. My kids do a little bit, but I don't. But I didn't have to be a gamer to understand gaming. I understand the environment. I understand what is required. What are the IPs that one needs to build? What is it that brands are looking at? I understand that perfectly well. So you work to your strengths, and that is working beautifully. So now, as a part of this role that I have, I work with the CEO of that company, identifying businesses, and not limited to India. I could be looking at, UAE, which is the next big market. Saudi is a big market. So I think it's just about your interest, and it has to be authentic. It cannot be bookish, because then it'll be very superficial.